Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today, Friday morning, September 26th. We've got Cece Lytle in the building here. Good morning, Cece. How you doing?
And I am doing good. It is Friday. That means we are just, 8 hours away from the weekend starting, right? So just ready to get this show on the road, ready to talk some football with you.
We are doing just that because we've got a big weekend of football, huge weekend in college football. Quite a number of top 25 ranked guys. Cece, are you more of a college or a SWFL guy?
It just depends, right? I mean, I'm a Hoosier guy, so with Indiana Hoosiers playing really well
You
lately in the
guys are
past
rolling.
couple seasons, especially against that game against Illinois, man, that was unbelievable. But I dabble in both, right? I try to stick to the hometown squads.
All right, we're talking SWFL, and we are gonna get a little bit into Indy and Indiana Jones, but the big I don't know if it's actually the biggest storyline, but a big storyline coming up to the upcoming weekend is that Jackson Dart getting the start for the New York Giants, who are 0-3. And I'm curious your take on not only this situation specifically, but also anyone similar to it. Because to me, if you're the Giants, what are we running out Russell Wilson for any games for if your leash is going to be 3 games in which then you start Jackson Dart? Your thoughts on this? Is this the right move? Should they be running out Russell Wilson longer? Should they never have run him out at all to begin with? What's happening?
I mean, Russell should have just went back and just retired, right? I don't even know why you would, in that situation with the Giants, I don't know why you would try to bring in a veteran like Russell Wilson, right? Because, I mean, that team was obviously nowhere near a contender of
No.
any sort in my mind. You draft Jackson Dart. You love Jackson Dart from the beginning. I am more of an advocate for quarterbacks trying to sit back and maybe learn a little bit.
Yep, I
But
agree.
with the Giants, I just don't see that being the thing. They should have just went on ahead week one, just announced Jackson Dart as a starter and move on.
Well, here's what I don't get, CC, is the threshold's too small. I mean, if your threshold is 3 games, then I think
Yeah.
that you didn't have a plan. Like, if
No.
at the very least, be like, we are going to, if this season, so I think they started Russell Wilson for the simple reason of Brian Daboll's trying to save his job. In the same way that the Indiana Colts are trying to save their job, and that's why they started Daniel Jones. Mixed results by those. Very, very different results by those, which we'll get to. But you start Russell Wilson because you're trying to say we can win football games, and ultimately that's what you're going to get hired or fired based off of his wins and losses. But to me, you show no spine to me if it's 3 games, because here's what I wonder: what if they beat the Cowboys in week 2 in that 42 point or 41 point fourth quarter between the two of them that goes to overtime and it's saved only by a Brandon Aubrey 67-yard field goal. If you win that game, does that mean that Jackson Dart isn't starting right now? You didn't lose that game because of Russell Wilson. He went
Yep.
off. I just to me there feels like no direction when you make a move this quickly, this early on in the post or in the regular season.
Yeah, and I think you could look at it in this light too, right? Like, first off, I mean, the Giants are just a crap organization. Let's
Yes,
just
they are.
call it like it is.
They're
They've made
operating
some.
like
They've
that.
made some terrible. They're operating like a schoolyard type of situation, right? But when you're playing against a division opponent, usually those games go pretty decent. Not really decently, I guess, but you know that opponent more than normal, right? But when you look at the other games, I mean, they lost to the Commanders. They only scored 6 points. Last week against the Chiefs, they only scored 9. I mean, the offense is just anemic, right? And so again, as I said, yes, Brian Dable may have been trying to put Russell Wilson in to save his job, but is that really the guy you want to put in to save your job
Right.
after the performance he did last season? No,
Yeah.
right? So what he should have done originally, as we both are alluding to, just throw Dart out there day one, right? I mean, you're a young team. You don't have the nucleus together to be a contender in the East, let alone in the SWFL period. So why are you even doing that? Just throw Dart out there now.
Yeah. The performance by Russell Wilson, I will say, I'm not defending what Russell Wilson did in week 1 and 3. He looked good enough in week 2, but as we've seen with the Cowboys, apparently everybody looks good against the Cowboys. I mean,
Everybody looks great against Dallas.
now like the Caleb Williams game now looks terrible because it's like, yeah, well, you know who else went off? Russell Wilson. That guy's not even starting anymore. So like
Yeah.
you're really not in great company. So like he goes 160 and 168, which is not even the amount of yards he threw for in the with 450 in the overtime loss to the Cowboys.
Yeah,
But to me, it's just more of, if you're going to start somebody, why aren't we starting Jameis Winston? At least Jameis Winston has vibes. I mean,
yeah,
at least he brings some personality to the game.
that's true.
If you are not starting Russell Wilson to save your job, if you're Brian Dable, then you're starting him because you think he can win. Jameis Winston is as winning of a quarterback as there is, because compared to Russell Wilson. Because if you look at the last number of stops with Russell Wilson, he gets replaced in Seattle, gets replaced in Denver, gets replaced in Pittsburgh. Was he
Yep.
really gonna last a season? Like, the track record shows, and you look at who he got replaced by, and it's not anybody of like substantial productivity. Justin Fields came in and outplayed him in Pittsburgh. The bar is so low. It just seems like such a waste of 3 weeks for this football team, and waste of opportunity for development, or at least competitive football. CC.
Yeah, and I don't know what they're paying him, right? I know it's got to be a decent amount of
I
money for
thought it
that for
was.
those 3 games. But I mean, I agree with you. I mean, if you're going to do that, why would you just not have just put in Jameis Winston and done it from there, right? I think probably Dart would have learned a lot more from Winston than he probably would out of Russell Wilson at this point in their careers. So I don't know exactly what Brian Dable was thinking. I don't even know if he was, right? But now here we are. Can't dwell on the past. Now we can look at Jackson Dart going forward, and that's what they should have been doing originally. And let's see how the Giants play with him now.
1 year deal, $10.5 million
That's a
for
lot.
Mr. Incredible and his dangerous Subway sandwich. All right, let's go to Baltimore, who, there's all this sky is falling. Oh no, the Ravens, they're 1-2. They're staring up in the AFC North at both Pittsburgh and Cincy, who are 2-1 apiece. And there's all this drama about this defense that 38 points against the Lions, 41 points against the Bills. Their offense has been good, but they had 3 fumbles by Derrick Henry. They aren't looking great. What's your panic meter? Give me a 1 through 10 panic meter on the Baltimore Ravens right now.
I mean, I'm looking at it probably like a 4.
A 4. Okay, that seems high.
Maybe. Yeah, that's not really high though, right? Maybe, I don't know. Like, it just, here's the thing, right? Cincinnati is going to be having a backup quarterback for a little bit. They've started off really nice, but I mean, are they going to sustain that? That's the question. Pittsburgh, I think, will be a little bit better. I think that they'll kind of sustain where they're at. So I'm not really too panicked on them, but I mean, there are some concerns, right? I mean, obviously, 3 fumbles by Henry is kind of weird. That's an anomaly in my mind. And the defense, I don't know. I mean, is it unfair to blame the DC for that? I'm not totally sure, because I think it's really, obviously scheme and stuff like that, but you got to put it on the players in some of the situation.
So I am pulling up my phone right now because I'm trying to see what Vegas thinks of the panic meter. And the favorite to win the AFC North with minus 350 odds are the Baltimore Ravens. And that tells me, because second is Pittsburgh at plus 500, that
Yep.
is in line with my meter, which is a 1. I am not concerned about this football team at all, particularly because you look at their upcoming schedule. Let's just go through it. It's Chiefs, Texans, Rams, Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets, Bengals, Jets, Bengals. And that now
Yeah.
we get through. So on that list, the Chiefs need to win. So that's a tough game. The Rams
Yep.
is a tough game, and the Vikings could be a tough game depending on what's going on at quarterback. Otherwise, Texans, they've looked terrible. The Bears, we just talked about kind of briefly them. The Dolphins probably might have a new head coach by the time those two teams meet. The Browns, who are being very competitive, they just upset the Packers. They've been competitive, but at some point this Joe Flacco mirage is going to be just that, a mirage. The Jets, and then Bengals on November 27th and again on the 14th. I mean, it said 3 months for Joe Burrow. That was last week, so they played on week 2. So that's probably not until October, November, mid-December. So maybe Joe Burrow is back for that game. Maybe that's his first game back. To me, this and that's a long way away from now. But this Ravens team, to you mentioned the teams ahead of them. The Bengals, they look terrible against the
Yeah.
Vikings. They were awful. And then the Steelers need every ounce of effort they could get to beat both the Jets, who aren't really that great, and the Patriots, who aren't really that great. I just don't see. I've talked about this with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are a good football team, but mathematically, it's really difficult for them to make their way back. When you look around this division for Baltimore, who scares you to think, oh no, Baltimore can't overcome this one game deficit 3 games into the season to the Steelers or the Bengals?
So let me ask you this, right? I'm going to flip this on you a little bit. So let's say you're right, because I want to ask this, and this is kind of a two-part question. One, with the Bears win, I know we could talk about this. With the Bears win against Dallas, do you see that maybe as a stepping stone for them to be a little bit better in the next few weeks? And two, if that is the case, let's say that the Ravens lose to Kansas City and the Bears in the next 4 weeks. Is the panic meter higher for you?
Oh, for yeah. So I don't
Yeah.
know that the Bears win gives me any confidence because like again the Cowboys. So they're 1-2. Who did they beat? Their one win was against the Giants in overtime,
Yeah.
and the Giants don't have a quarterback. So how do I now like the Cowboys anymore?
And they couldn't get a pass rush, which is weird because I thought the Cowboys had a really good pass rusher at one point in their
They
lives,
did,
but maybe
yeah.
not.
They might have
They
had
did.
access to somebody that could do just
Yeah,
that.
they might
and,
have. Yeah.
and
Instead, you get Kenny Clark,
who got hurt, and I think he might have came back. But
who got hurt, and he didn't even stop the run. But anyway, continue.
right. So the guy which is shocking. I hate that 30 years old in the SWFL is old, but unfortunately, just because of the physical toll of the game, it is. Who shockingly at 30 is not a 24, 25, however old Micah Parsons is. So I don't. To answer your question in 2 parts. No, I don't think the Bears win is a stepping stone. I think it's positive. I don't. Though I'm not judging the Bears win-loss record by anything on the season. If they win 6 games, I think that's positive. Let's give every coach 2 to 3 seasons to figure it out. But if the Ravens lose to the Chiefs, which I don't think is out of the question. I mean, it's on the road. It's your 425 game. Like that is a tough game. And then they lose to the Bears, and let's say they get the Texans and the Rams, which I don't know that the Rams is a check mark to the Ravens that easily. I really like the Rams.
I don't think it is either.
So, yes, if we are sitting here on the 27th, on the morning of the 27th of October, and we're looking at a football team that is 2-4, actually that'd be 2-5 if they were to lose to the Chiefs, Rams, and Bears. Yes, the panic meter is up, but to that point, I still don't know the division is out of reach because where are the Bengals going to be? Where are the Steelers going to be? And honestly, even if the Steelers, if we were at that 7-week point and the Steelers were 5-2 and the Bengals were 5-2, I don't even know if that's possible for both of them to be there. It doesn't matter. I would still be like, yeah, I think the Ravens could probably make a comeback because we're going to get 2 matchups. You would still have at that point, CC, 2 matchups with the Bengals and 2 matchups with the Steelers. So you could easily make up that ground with those 4 head-to-head matchups against those 2 teams.
And you got, I mean, obviously you got the Dolphins, Vikings, and Browns, and all 3 of those are on the road. That's going to be very interesting back to back to back like that. You know, that might, by the time you get to the Browns, maybe that kind of takes a toll on you a little bit, right, with all that travel.
And the Browns are
just something to think
a good
about.
football team. I mean, they beat
can
the
be.
Packers. They beat the Packers, and everyone's like, "Oh, this big upset." It's like, I mean, they played competitive. They should have beat the Bengals, and they were competitive against these Ravens for 3 quarters. So I don't think the Browns are as bad as their record would indicate, or their starting quarterback would indicate. If you're not a fan of Joe Flacco. All right, speaking of quarterbacks and everything of no one had on their bingo card. Indiana Jones in the Colts, 3-0. They didn't. I don't know if they punted yet. Did they punt on Sunday? I don't know.
I think once.
So
once,
they finally punted after 2.5 games of not ever punting. I think that's the first team ever to do it. I know that through the first 2 weeks it was like the first team this century to not do it. I mean, you're in Indiana. What is the vibe? Are we drinking the blue Kool-Aid? Is this Colts to the Super Bowl? Danny Jones is MVP. What's going on?
I mean, I would probably slow down on that talk, right? I mean, first off, you beat the Dolphins and you beat the Titans.
And the Broncos.
I mean, the Broncos. I'm gonna be realistic. I'm gonna be realistic a little bit here. So, you know, the Broncos game was kind of a fluke, lucky at the end, right? The guy trying to get the leverage, get the penalty called, you get the re-kick from instead of 60 yards, it was like what 45 yards to seal the deal. You get that win by 1. Really, if not, I mean, you would be looking at a 2-1 record right now. But either way, what the Colts fans around here are really excited about is just the fact that the quarterback can play,
Yeah,
right?
and isn't
And
taking
the
himself
thing
out.
is and he isn't taking himself out. He's not tapping himself on the helmet, right? But here's the thing, right? As a Colts fan, one of the things that I've always said about Richardson was I knew after that year of Florida, he was a project. I mean, he was
Yeah,
always considered a project quarterback. He was. I talked about Jackson Dart getting thrown in day one. Richardson should not have been thrown in day one.
yeah.
He should have figured something out, right? And now look, Danny Dimes had kind of a rough go there in New York. Everybody talked about he was a bust, this and that, right? But New York was not built right around him. Their offensive line for all those years was terrible.
Still
And
is.
so the Colts have a decent offensive line that can protect. And you can see what happens when he's got time. He can pick some defenses apart and has looked pretty good. But then again, like I said, take this into consideration. You face the Dolphins, who look like crap, and you face the Titans, who did not look great either.
Yeah, so I said this on Monday's SimWorld today that let's see them play somebody, right? Because the one team that they've played
Yes.
that has a win, the Broncos, beat one of the teams that you play that doesn't have a win, who are the Titans. So like, yes, there's one win on the scoreboard in the opposing record column. It's barely there. Like one of those two teams had to win that game between the Broncos and the Titans. So you were well, I guess they could have tied, but you were going to face somebody with a win, which honestly tie would have been even more proof of this lack of strong schedule. That's like my one more Jaguars fan. We can catch them. I'm not scared of the
Yep.
Colts. On the other side, this was a team last year, right, that played Joe Flacco, that moved away from Anthony Richardson. Why?
Yep.
Because their defense was really good and their offense had a lot of pieces, and they're sitting there and they're saying, we should be better than we are, but we're stuck with this quarterback that's not doing anything for us and is not effective and is bringing down the general talent. And we know we have a very small window in the SWFL to win football games. Our roster is composed right now to do that. We've got to go try to do that. And so I think when you put competence back there, which they've gotten out of Danny Jones, this has been a better football team. I mean, I'm not saying I'm buying this. I still want to see them win. But the roster composition is really strong. You got a lot of good pieces. It's a good, not necessarily superstar receiving core. Jonathan Taylor's been fantastic. You mentioned the O line, and the defense is playing really competitive. I'm not surprised they're 3-0 based off the schedule, but I do think that this has been an impressive start to the season for team and head coach in particular that really needed it, because that was the big thing. Danny Jones gets the head coach or the starting quarterback job, CC, and everyone's like, Matt, this is just a head coach trying to save his job. Not only has he saved his job, he might have saved Danny Jones' career.
Yeah, I mean that's a good possibility, right? And so, but here's the thing too: we're gonna find out
Yep,
on Sunday, I guess Sunday, when they play because they're in LA to take on the Rams.
it's gonna be tough.
That'll
A
be
Rams team that
that'll
should have
be
beat Philly.
yes, a Rams team that should have beat Philly. This is going to be an interesting game, and I think this is where a lot of people that if they're not really too sure, here we go, right? Because originally, before the season started, they were talking about well, their first test will be Denver, right? And Denver played them pretty good defensively, but
Denver's
you know,
not looked great.
they not look great, but they played them decently.
Yeah,
But LA will be the challenge, and then you got the Raiders at home, you got the Cardinals at home. The Cardinals have looked,
yeah,
the Cardinals,
decent, two
and
and
then
one.
you got and then you got the Chargers on the road.
It's a tough schedule.
So that's a little bit of a tough schedule. So we'll find out really what it is, right? But again, right now, if you're a Colts fan, you're playing on house money because you're getting way more out of Daniel Jones than you thought, right? Because when Daniel Jones got announced, it was torches and pitchforks around here, ready to just go take
Yeah,
Chris Ballard out of his office, right? Nobody was happy about that.
yeah.
But we are now. We're seeing the results.
Yeah, I thought what I said on Sunday was I think by the time they play the Titans, I would not be on. That's on October 26th, so end of October.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if that team's 4-4 going into that game with the Titans. I wouldn't be surprised. I think they're better than the Raiders. They've shown that the Raiders are not good. But the Rams on the road, the Chargers on the road, and the Cardinals at home mixed in there. I would not at all be surprised. What is your feeling? You're not your head coach, your owner, sitting on the sideline. She's got the earpiece in. She's writing down all the plays. Good, bad. What? Because before the season, with 0 wins on the markers, this what a 0-0 record. That I saw on social and all the comments like, "Oh, this is bad." It had nothing to do with who the owner was, but just this micromanagement. Why are we like let the guy coach? What's going on? You don't have your black background in football. How are you to sit there and say if this was the right call or wrong call? Now at 3-0, it almost kind of feels like is this the vibe? Like, okay, roll with the owner who wants to sit there and be like, I like these plays. What's going on?
Yeah, and that was kind of a question I had too, right? When this was all going down, and then she started to get on the sideline. But when you hear her talk about it, she was like, "Listen, I'm not going to pretend I know the game of football or whatever, right?" And so she's like, "I want to learn and see what goes on behind the scenes from my team," and I don't mind that, right? If you got an owner that's not, as long as she's not pulling a Jerry Jones down there on the sideline, I'm fine
Yeah.
with it, right? If she's just down there listening in and she's following along and she's looking at a play sheet and all that, I don't really see the harm in it. I think that's
Yeah.
really good because then she'll know exactly what you know and she wants to put the team in her image. That's great, right? And if she needs to be able to talk football and understand football in order to do that, there's nothing wrong with learning the sport. I'm fine with it.
Do we think she's just she's gearing up to try to take over the head coach job in 2 to 3 years? She's like, what's the plays that
Maybe.
work and don't? It's like I could do this job. That's just a joke. It has nothing to do with the person.
Yeah.
But Jerry Jones probably thinks he could do it, and we all know how that would turn out.
Jerry Jones thinks he can run everything, right? He's the coach, he's the trainer, he could probably go on there and rush for 100 yards in his mind.
Well, probably. I mean, when he was a backup D end at Arkansas, he probably thought he was on his way to winning the Heisman.
God.
Well, so we were talking about this before we went live. You are a recovering Cowboys fan, much like I am a
Yes.
recovering Cowboys fan. How happy are you right now to no longer be a Cowboys fan? Because I tell you what, I am
See,
over the moon that I am not rooting for that team anymore.
yeah, I'm telling you, I have been a Cowboys fan since I was a kid, right? And that was like early '90s, like when they started all their
Yeah,
little run,
yeah.
right? And so it. Then once you got through '98, then you started going through the down years and seeing the decisions that Jerry made, right? I mean, I still remember picking up Drew Henson off the waivers from the Yankees,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
putting him in as a starting quarterback, right? And it just the decisions that he has made just over the years has just been frustrating. And it wasn't anything to do, like I said, I stopped watching and stopped really paying attention to Dallas like 2, 3 years ago. But everything I see, especially when they trade Micah Parsons, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is Jerry Jones to the T. He doesn't want to pay. He only wants to pay Dak Prescott, who is a good quarterback, but I don't know if he's worth that money.
right.
Right? He hasn't
He's
shown
fine.
anything.
He's fine.
He's fine, right? Like he's not worth the money that they're paying him.
Yeah.
And just like I said, over and over again, the decisions that they made and him trying to justify that Parsons deal was just I was just sitting back just laughing.
Yeah,
Whole
we
time.
got
So
we
I'm
got
like,
two
oh,
more
this
first
is
round
Jerry.
picks who we could go and get. We
We
could go
could
get
go
a
and get a
difference maker.
pass rusher.
You mean a guy like Micah Parsons, huh? Yeah,
Yeah,
that could be an
it was
option.
it was crazy because I swear I heard a quote somewhere where he was talking about we needed a pass rush against the Bears. It was like
Yep.
you had it,
Yeah. Yeah, you
you
had it in
had it,
front of you,
and you
and
let it go.
they're gonna get a firsthand glimpse of it this Sunday against
Oh
when the
yeah.
Packers come back to town. So
Oh
it'll
man,
be
that's gonna be a riot.
that is going to be entertainment for everyone that's not a Cowboys fan. All right, CC, appreciate you joining us. We're back with you on Friday. Appreciate you all tuning in here on SimWorld TV. We're back on Monday morning, right here. Only place you can see the game, be the game.